Welcome to the first episode of Redefine's Top 10 Bracket Challenge. My name is Steve Matonti, and before I introduce you to our two debaters today, let me explain the rules on how this works. We chose our personal top 10 favorite DC movies of all time. We have seeded them based on their worldwide gross. We have taken the top 2 seeds, and we have given them a bye to get all the way into the semifinals. That being said, let's go ahead and introduce him. We got John Spagnola. John, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram under FitSpags.
And we have Ian Phillips. Ian, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram as well under brogue_fitness.
Awesome. All right, guys, we have 2 huge DC fans, so this is going to be an intense one. Now, keep in mind, they are not going to know what movies they're fighting for until I tell them right now. So this is going to be quick, and there was no ability for them to prepare for it either. Here we go. Round 1. Ian, you're fighting for Wonder Woman. John, you're fighting for V for Vendetta. Ian, go.
All right, so one thing you have to look at with Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman came out during a time when DC was just putting out absolute garbage. Wonder Woman is a movie that, against all odds, managed to come in and completely right the ship, and all honesty, probably
Boom, John, V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta is a movie that came out in 2004. Natalie Portman and high classified actors came out during a movie of a very dark time in London, England, and really shows that everybody can be a hero inside them and how we go against corruption.
Fight it out.
All right, so V for Vendetta. It's great. It's honestly, it's a really amazing movie.
Yeah.
As far as rewatchability, you have to look at it now. Again, V for Vendetta does hold some governmental significance nowadays. I think we can all agree on that. However, when you're looking at an entertainment, when I go to the movies, I don't want to go to the movies and sit and be propaganda to. I don't want to sit and listen to some government propaganda telling me how I need to think. I want to go and be entertained. Wonder Woman entertained me.
But this is more of just a Netflix and chill kind of a movie. This is like a anger, rage, and more of education, and in all cases put in there that the superhero is that person's side of it. Oh, we're using propaganda.
Propaganda.
But it's true. It's out there. What V for Vendetta is showing, instead of what Wonder Woman is showing, is there's real problems out there. And we can be that everyday hero.
Who wants to go to the movie and be shown, oh, yeah, our world is shit. We got some serious problems. I want to go to the movie to get an escape from that. I want to go to the movies to be entertained.
And I understand
Wonder Woman from
that.
start to finish. You can say what you want about the ending fight scene, but Wonder Woman entertained the shit out of me. Again, V for Vendetta, great movie. But when you're talking about movies in themselves and what movies at their heart are supposed to do, Wonder Woman entertained me. V for Vendetta
30 seconds.
just fired me up about the government.
I just feel that just
Final
V for
points.
Vendetta, number 1, shows good points of art, but also shows good points of corruption and how you can be that everyday hero. You can be that person who finds the truth, who finds that it keeps you on the grips of your seat. You, like, in my opinion,
All
Wonder
right,
Woman,
time. Okay.
I know, I really...
It's tough because I have my personal favorite, but I can only base off who won based on the arguments and based on the debate that you guys made. John, you made some really good points in just saying the fact that there's some real life significance to the movie. Ian makes a really good point, too, to say that you don't go to the movies to be reminded of, like, what goes on in real life. Ian, you didn't make a lot of good points to the reason why Wonder Woman should be, but neither did you, John. Is the reason saying that it's not. So I'm going to have to go with, say, Ian won that one because he really just destroyed V for Vendetta for you on that one.
That's good.
Yeah.
It was a good fight. That was really good.
And if we're being in all fairness, I do think V for Vendetta is the better movie, but the argument stands.
Yeah, and I love Wonder Woman.
All right, here we go. Round 2. Ian, you have Superman 2. John, you have Batman Begins. Let's go ahead and start with you, John. Batman Begins.
Batman Begins with a new Batman, a new character, Christian Bale, with Liam Neeson in a time of nobody knows who this vigilante is, and he's finding who he really is as going to see Ra's al Ghul. To me, this is the beginning of how badass Batman
Ian.
is.
All right, we got Superman 2. I think probably looked at as one of the best Superman movies that has been made up to this date. You got General Zod being brought in for the first time. You got Gene Hackman coming back as just the maniacal supervillain, putting it all together. And you really got a lot of great character development between Lois Lane and Superman.
Boom. All right, fight it up.
Come on, you got to look at it. Superman compared to Batman. Batman Begins.
You just lost your argument right there.
How?
Superman versus Batman. Like,
Oh, I know. Isn't there a movie about that?
there is. There is. I think that was a stalemate, but that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, it's not going to happen here, but let's go.
So at the end of what you got to look at too is what happened within that movie. Now, Batman Begins, great origin story, but there's not a lot of character development that happened between the characters. When you look at like some of the relationships that are being built, a lot of it's just trying to build who Batman is, and not a lot of things that are going on.
Did you see what I saw? I saw Christian Bale. I saw Bruce Wayne and Ra's al Ghul, the teacher, the student. I saw such a great chemistry there to where Ra's al Ghul was building
for
a
about
monster.
15 minutes. Whereas Superman 2, you've added some Kryptonian background. General Zod, great villain, but I think what made Superman 2 the movie was you're really getting to see the real life repercussions of what it's like living as Superman and living as Clark Kent, trying to have relationships, knowing that Lois Lane, not only, she's got this little thing for Clark Kent, but she's really in love with Superman. Him having to actually come out and tell her, and the emotion that actually is going on here. You're invested into these characters. Batman Begins, great origin story, but at the end of the day, it went through really quick and doesn't allow any of the characters to really develop.
I thought it did well in development. I mean, you had Scarecrow, you had his...
Again, not a very well-developed villain.
You know...
He was a pawn at the end of the... Scarecrow was a pawn to Ra's al Ghul at the end of the...
Well, Ra's al Ghul is the main villain. Even if you look in the comics, Ra's al Ghul was always that top villain. He always, time traveled and stuff like that.
All right, closing arguments. John?
Okay, to me, I think Batman Begins is way better than Superman 2. Just to the point of, you saw darkness, but you also saw a glimmer of light. But Batman coming to himself, learning that he is that great Batman that he should be, with Ra's al Ghul in the movie, to me, I think Batman showed the fans there's great hope.
So, again, I think great movie, but I was really rushed, and as much as we got to see the development of how Batman came to be Batman, there was not a lot of character development, there's not a lot of relationship building. By the time while you're going through Superman, you feel such a hard emotional investment to these characters because you can feel these real life situations that they're going through, dealing with a double life, dealing with relationships, dealing with the having to do things for the greater good, but also with
okay, time. Whew. All right, this is closer than the last one. I was waiting for you, John, to be saying something about how we finally got an actual origin story for Batman. I was waiting for that, and I feel like if you had said that made it unique, an actual origin story.
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely would have given you a lot more points for that. The whole connection with Krypton, General Zod coming in there, you sort of mentioned with him being, like, the regular person again. I feel like you could have did a lot more with that to be able to see, like, a superhero becoming a regular person again. But based on it, I do think Ian edged you out a little bit. Like you had some good points you just didn't make.
I should have,
Yeah, and Ian is just so far, Ian is just destroying your movies. Instead of even necessarily saying, well, his movies is better, but I think that's what's giving him the edge out. So another one goes to Ian for Superman 2.
There's always a comeback. We're always bleeding comeback.
All right, here we go. Round 3. All right, here we go. And we have Batman 1989 versus Watchmen. And let's give... You already had the Batman that went there, so let's go ahead and give Batman 89 to Ian and Watchmen to John. Ian, Batman 89.
All right, so Batman 89, I think probably right up there with The Dark Knight is one of the most iconic Batman roles of all time. Not only just with Batman itself, but Joker being one of the best Jokers of all time as well. You've got some great character development as far as like getting to know who Bruce Wayne is, what he's all about, what makes him tick as Batman as far as the origin story with the parents. And again, you don't get a lot of the development. But
John, Watchmen.
Watchmen is a great movie of a 1980s comic that comes out that not a lot of people know about, of real-life superheroes and how they deal with real-life human circumstances and situations. You have Dr. Manhattan, you have
All right, fight it out.
Really, when you go about the characters building up about Batman 89, to me, I feel the reason why I don't think it's better than Watchmen is because, number one, we really didn't know who Bruce Wayne kind of really was, in my opinion, when I watched it. To me, he didn't even know who he was in the movie. I don't know if that was a Michael Keaton issue, but to me, he felt lost even playing that character.
I don't necessarily see it that way. You got to look at too what led into the movies. When you're looking at Batman 89 was not getting a lot of great reception going into it. Or Watchmen, on the other hand, got a ton of great, like, people were clamoring to see Watchmen. It looked like a great movie. They did a great job marketing it. Batman 89 was almost dead on arrival, and Michael Keaton just flying above expectations. Tim Burton creating a universe, a dark, gritty, crime-ridden Gotham City versus a movie that, in all honesty, if you go back, people walked out of Watchmen in theaters. It did not do well to theaters. Granted, it's got a nice fan base now, but Batman, when you look at what it did with the expectations it had going against it, being able to change so many perceptions of how well Michael Keaton could do as Batman, there's literally no contest that Batman 89 is not better than Watchmen.
It has to be better. Watchmen has to be better than Batman 89. Watchmen has Dr. Manhattan, this man who becomes one with the universe, who can bend atoms. You have Rorschach, who's like this private investigator but takes crime in his own hands. I believe Watchmen did a way better job, to me, introducing each character's origin in detail and showed the crime riddance that was going on, the government corruption, and Dr. Manhattan single-handedly...
You can't tell me that Batman 89 did not do just as good a job creating a crime-ridden city, showing the corruption that was happening within the police department with the big fat cop being on the payroll of Jack Napier, setting up the whole opposite of coming to the Joker, and we haven't even covered how iconic the Joker has been. I mean, when you're talking about movies that led to iconic characters, people don't talk about Rorschach, people don't talk about Dr. Manhattan, not in the same light that they still to this day talk about how great Michael Keaton's Batman and Jack Nicholson's Joker was.
I mean, like you said, and I agree, Michael Keaton was a great actor, but I really feel Watchmen, if you really watch this movie, and I read the comics on it too, and I know this is just movies, I believe comic to movie, Watchmen did a great job. They kept to the origin. I think Zack Snyder, by far...
All right, closing arguments.
Again, at the end of the day, you have to look at what these two movie roles did, not just in the theaters, which, again, if we go back, people walked out of Watchmen. They didn't even finish it. Whether it was they got sick of looking at Dr. Manhattan's blue penis. Batman, still, to this day, one of the greatest DC movies of all. One of the greatest superhero movies of all time. One of the most iconic settings. And when you pair it to Watchmen...
time. I think you almost lost it with Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan's blue penis. That almost gave him the head start on that one, but all right.
I didn't get my final.
Oh, you didn't get your final?
Let me get my final.
I apologize. Go ahead and get your final one.
Okay, so final for Watchmen.
If you're just going to give me that one, I'll take it.
Hey, hold on. I need a fighting chance, too. So I believe Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan, Rorschach, the Owlman. To me, these were excellent characters that they put in this movie. You have great origin stories.
Excellent characters, but it was...
let him finish. Hold on.
Hey, excellent characters. I believe they picked an excellent bad guy who we really didn't even know who the bad guy was towards the end. And to me, the quotes in the movie just sunk so deep in my heart, more than just Batman. I wanted to watch a superhero movie that would go in deeper depths in my mind, in deeper depths into philosophy than just a Batman and a Joker. To me, this spoke on existence and life and the universe. To me, by far, Watchmen, hands down, should win.
All right, he made some pretty good points there at the end.
And I like Batman 89 too. Like, I just watched it last night. I love that movie.
Iconic though. It's nothing iconic came out of Watchmen.
Again, I feel like, hold on. As a fact check, I can't say that I know it was necessarily true that Batman 89 went in weak and Watchmen went in strong. I don't know if I can necessarily agree with that.
Okay, you might be able to argue that Watchmen didn't go in super strong.
Batman
89
let's
went
remove,
in very,
let's
very
remove
weak.
that from the docket on that one. There weren't really too many arguments for your Batman 89 that weren't necessarily made for already the other Batman Begins that was made. It was sort of the repeated concept. But I just think at the end, John just talking about how that it was more than just a superhero movie, but the philosophy and just every other aspect on that one. So I think on that one, I will give to John for what? All right, here we go.
Still up.
That was fun.
Still up.
Here we go.
2-1.
Round 4. We have Superman 1978 and Batman Returns. Let's go ahead and give Batman back to John, and we got the original Superman with Ian. John, go ahead.
Batman Returns. You have two iconic, great villains that Batman's found. You get the Penguin. You have the Penguin. You have Catwoman. To me, Batman Begins continues great with Batman 89, where Batman is seen as Dark City.
Wait, what?
Return. It's okay. We know what you're talking about.
Batman Returns. To where you see this dark, iconic city, to where corruption and government, and to me, by far, I believe this is the best Batman out of all of them. Just the character of the development.
Ian, Superman.
Okay. So Superman 1978, the original. When we're talking iconic, you cannot get more iconic than the 1978 Superman. Again, we're not even talking Superman himself, but Gene Hackman probably potentially playing one of the greatest villain roles in spite of what his plot might have been, but just how he carried himself. And let's not forget about probably one of the greatest villain lines in the history of comic book movies, and that's Gene Hackman. Some people can read War and Peace and think it was a great book. Some people can read the back of a bubblegum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe. When you're talking about iconic,
Okay, go ahead and
nothing
fight.
more iconic than 78 Superman.
So, I know this is my nerd crush. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Oh my gosh. To me, that was what made the movie so great with Batman Returns. Number one, she was just gorgeous. She was hot. The Penguin, how evil he was, how corrupt he was, and how Batman still had to make that balance because Gotham City still didn't trust the Batman. And to tie this on is where they see, Penguin as the mayor who's running, and he's still making these horrible decisions of just killing people and having this huge army, and Batman's still doing the right thing, but still known as, like you said, the vigilante, the bad guy. And like I said, just Catwoman, just who went for vengeance against somebody who assaulted her or who, killed her, but she came back. And then at the end, she figures out that Penguin was not the right person to help out, and how she ultimately has a huge crush on Batman, which I think everybody, even Steve, probably, I think we all had a crush on Catwoman in the movie, like I did.
So you got, I'm right there with you, but you're looking at the most, probably right up there in Batman v Superman, one of the most killing spree set Batmans that's ever graced the silver screen. When you're looking at Superman, you're looking at not only iconic, but you're looking at comic book relevant. Like, this is the Superman we remember from the comic books, and not only that, again, Gene Hackman, again, as just the brilliance that he brought to that character as Lex Luthor. I think anybody that steps on the screen that tries to play Lex Luthor against, and again, we've seen people outdo previous reiterations of certain characters, like with the Joker.
I can say the same thing about Danny DeVito with Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, I believe there's nobody who can play a better Penguin. Am I right? It was Lee Harvey.
It was Oswald Cobblepot.
Oswald Cobblepot. Okay.
But again,
Oswald
not
Cobblepot,
very
okay.
Again, iconic, but not comic book relevance. He was not a mutant. He was just he looked a certain way, normal person, but he was just a gangster. He wasn't like some evil maniacal guy. He was a legitimate gangster. Like, he came up in the Marconi crime family, and he managed to build his own empire. When you're talking about comic book relevance, there's not a lot of comic book relevance that ties in Batman Returns to what the comic book was, which, again, when you're going for a comic book movie, you want to see those comic book tie-ins. Superman 78 did it, by and large, better than just about any superhero movie we've seen to this day.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I feel that Batman, like I said, they continued that greatness of Batman into just how he fights the Penguin and how he's fighting, Catwoman, and also how Gotham.
And I can't even forget the score in Superman. The score in Superman is still probably one of the most iconic superhero scores that they've ever done at this point. Who doesn't remember the da 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 da?
It's my
like that.
ringtone
Just
on my
I'm
phone.
literally
You're
firing
just
me
gonna let
up
him
right
sing the
there.
song? Don't let him sing it.
I mean, to me, I have the ringtone on my phone, and like I said,
All right, closing arguments, fast.
Yeah, probably the most iconic superhero movie of all time. Most iconic superhero, most iconic villain. Great relationship building between Lois and Superman. Great development between how he differed in the way he portrayed himself as Clark Kent and as Superman. I don't think anybody's done both sides as well as Christopher Reeves.
Look at how the vigilante of Batman was, and how you have the Penguin, a great villain that they created, and you have Catwoman, a great Catwoman that they've casted for Gotham City. How to me Gotham City should look in the comics, super dark but also very corrupt. To me, I feel that movie should outdo Superman.
This is a tough one. You got a movie that pretty much started it all against probably one of the best sequel superhero movies out there. It's tough seeing the fact that this is going to be the third Batman movie that we've been trying to fight for. So I definitely, I feel bad for you, the fact that you got that one on that one. I think Ian spent a lot of time and just not a lot of time in building up Superman, but again, just bringing down Batman Returns. And I feel like, John, you didn't make enough good points to battle his negativity towards it. So I think I got to give that one to Ian for Superman.
That was good, yeah.
I have a fighting style.
It's
attack.
All right, we're officially in the quarterfinals. Here we go. We now have Wonder Woman versus Superman 2. Ian, Superman 2. John, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, go.
If you look at Wonder Woman, places back World War I, it shows Gal Gadot an origin of who Wonder Woman is, where she came from, and how she's getting onto this DC universe that we're creating. It's a great origin story, in a way. So to me, I think this is a great movie.
So Superman 2, we're going back, looking at, again, a great bit of relationship building, not just in the relationships they built, but even the idea of sacrifice. You had Superman literally knowing exactly what he stands for, how important he is to Earth, and giving it all up so he can have a normal life with Lois Lane. Like, when you're talking about...
All right, fight.
Okay, Wonder Woman, she's a Greek goddess. To me...
Superman is a
He's
god.
Just almost
he can
right.
do
She's
everything.
right there with him. No, she's a
Superman
Greek goddess.
literally would put Wonder Woman in the pavement.
She's a Greek goddess, though. She literally can live in a oasis, but chooses to leave that area and come and help
with
man.
her powers, in which Superman
Well, of
actually,
course.
literally, because you got the great thing, you got a love story brewing in both, where Wonder Woman doesn't have to give anything up because she can always go back to pleasure eyes.
No, she cannot. Oh no, she can't go back, can she?
She can go back.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely, she can go back.
I don't think so.
No,
Not to,
she might not be welcomed right away, but she can
Amazonian
absolutely go
woman.
back. Superman literally gave up his power. He gave up everything that made him special for the woman that he loves. Knowing, and with a threat like General Zod looming in the background, to make that kind of a sacrifice for somebody that you love,
if that is a horrible villain, General Zod, to me, I think I thought Lex Luthor.
Horrible villains.
I love
Ares. How
it's
how
like
in the world does Ares all of a sudden
in the comics he's great? I mean,
yeah,
even
in the comics, but we're debating the movie.
Even
here.
in the movie,
Ares was terrible. If he could have done that the whole time, why did he wait to just now to decide I'm a badass who can beat the crap out of everybody?
We look at Ares, but the woman who was dealing with the poison, with the weapons of mass destruction,
they were terrible too.
You didn't like it?
No,
I liked it.
I'm not saying that the movie wasn't
I thought it was
good.
better
The villains
than General
were terrible.
Zod. I thought it was better than General Zod.
General Zod, at least the actor himself, the way he played the role. General Zod, you felt a presence with General Zod. He didn't do very much, but when he steps on screen, this is a guy not to be effed with.
Like, he's just like Superman, though. Like,
your final statement.
Okay, to me, Wonder Woman, why it's better than Superman 2 is she's leaving an oasis area and she's fighting for the people in a World War I situation. To me, the villains were better. To me, her supporting cast was better. With Chris Pine, I believe he was excellent. Also had a love interest. I thought the romantic side of it was great too. And third, you saw a teamwork, a camaraderie of superheroes. They're not superheroes, but she's a superhero. A camaraderie of teamwork to fight for good. To me, Superman just fought for himself.
All right, Superman, he does fight for himself in the sense that he is a part of this new world. So him fighting for himself is him fighting for the entirety of the world. Wonder Woman, yeah, great relationship building, and I'll give him that. They had a great bit of chemistry between Chris Pratt and Gal Gadot. But when you're looking at the sacrifice, Gal Gadot, she left Themyscira, but you got to remember, she wasn't very happy there either because of the way that her mother tried to keep her so, like, under a shell.
All right, we're out.
He's putting a lot of that was
probably the better one.
That was good.
You guys both did more explaining simply what the movies were and not so much as to the reason why one is just better than the other. So I'm sort of at a stalemate at that point. So let's just kind of, Ian, I'll give you 15 seconds to simply say, why is Wonder Woman better, the movie? Why is Wonder Woman the movie better than Superman 2 the movie? Oh, the other way around. Superman is better than Wonder Woman.
Okay, so let's just break down the characters in themselves. Superman, much more important story arc. You've got the romantic love interest, what Superman was willing to do for his love interest. Way more things at stake in that case. General Zod, much more imposing.
Okay, John, why is Wonder Woman better than Superman?
Just number one, Gail Gadot was an excellent Wonder Woman. She had a great supporting cast with Chris Pine, with the love interest as well. Superman 2, to me, didn't have a great supporting cast like Wonder Woman had. The special effects, I know the times is, from the 70s to now, but to me, special effects, the war scenes of World War I.
One chance to sort of rebuttal what each other said. Do you have anything to rebuttal on his?
All right, love interest, great, but again, when you look at the sacrifice that had to be given up, there was no sacrifice. It was just they fell in love and they got to be in love. And then they're going to go off and fight a war together.
Rebuttal?
Awesome.
Love interest, he died for her. If that doesn't show love, to me, I don't know what does. He sacrificed himself for her. And Superman, everybody knows
is the movie Steve Trevor or is the movie Wonder Woman?
But there's
Superman made the sacrifice. It's Superman's movie.
I understand that. But to me, it's just...
Okay, hold on. That did not help at all. I just felt like I heard more about Wonder Woman than Superman in that. And we talked more about Wonder Woman. Well, I think Superman 2 is better. I think based on just what you guys were talking about, I think you convinced me that Wonder Woman was actually the better movie.
Good job. That was fun.
All right, here we go. The other half of the quarterfinals.
What's the score, anyways?
We have... I don't have the... We'll put it up on the screen as far as the scores when I do the math on there. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and have... We have Watchmen against Superman. Since... Who just went it for Superman?
I went for
You
Superman.
did. All right, so this time we'll have the original Superman versus Watchmen. And let's go start with Watchmen.
All right, Watchmen. When you're looking at the Watchmen versus Superman in this case, Watchmen, much better story building. Again, when you go back and you kind of look at the story building that happened to Superman, we got a lot of this is kind of how we're building the world. The villain's endgame at the end, Ozymandias, with what he put together, what he was capable to do behind the scenes versus Gene Hackman's real estate plot. Ozymandias, insanely better villain.
You got Superman, the beginning of a great dynasty of a great superhero. You have Gene Hackman. You have Christopher Reeve. Great, to me, two top greatest actors almost in all time of superheroes. of Gene Hackman, not only just a real estate monarch, but also a madman in itself. To me, that shows, to me, when I think of a villain, I think of a madman.
Fight it out.
All right, so I'm going to be honest here. When you're looking at these two movies, you have to look at the villains. The villains are really what differentiate these two movies. And when you look at Ozymandias as the mastermind, you get to the end of the movie and you realize Ozymandias has been the mastermind. Not only did
We're
he
butchering everybody's names, by the way, with Gal Gabbett and Ozymandias.
Just give us that, though. I mean,
but Ozymandias, he not only did he manage to just pull the strings of everything, he managed to manipulate Dr. Manhattan to get him to leave Earth entirely.
Yeah, just to me,
a godlike being, a physicist and a godlike being managed to just manipulate one of the most powerful beings ever created in the DC universe.
The thing is, these two villains, and people who are watching this, they're very similar. They're both very intelligent. They're both madmen. But to me,
that is a good call.
Lex Luthor just has this strong hatred. It just keeps building. It's like a sickness.
Lex Luthor didn't really have a strong hatred. He wanted to make money.
In the beginning,
Ozymandias had a great, of course, Superman foiled his plot. Of course he's going to hate Superman.
Yeah.
Ozymandias had a grand vision for something that he was trying to do to change the world. And then you have to look at the final act. I got to tell you, Rorschach coming in at the end there, telling Dr. Man, if this is what you're going to allow to happen, then you should just kill me now because I'm not living in this world. Demanding that Dr. Manhattan kill him in order to keep him from telling everybody, and then finding out that Rorschach sent all the evidence out anyway, so he still wins.
Just think of it. Superman, I think the part that, to me, why I think it's better than Watchmen is that gripping, that my heart went out when Lois Lane is on the street. She's dead. And you see the power of Superman spinning around the world to move back time, to sacrifice that and sacrifice everybody in the world just for that one woman. To me,
but did he really sacrifice that? He turned time back a couple of minutes. I don't think he really.
Yeah.
I mean, in any cases, he saved.
Affects the weather.
In any cases, he might have saved more people than just Lois Lane. Maybe some dude just took the wrong step off of a subway platform, and Superman just saved that dude's life too.
But okay.
All right, closing arguments.
Again, you've got to go back to the villains in this one because I think the superhero building in both movies was probably fairly equal. The thing that differentiates the two is the villains. How they were able to put their plots together. I think when you're looking at like a genius level intellect, the fact that they are, like you said, madman, but when you look at what they were trying to do, Lex Luthor trying to create some sort of a real estate scheme versus Ozymandias literally putting a plot together to change the world. Ozymandias absolutely thrashes Lex Luthor from start to finish.
I just don't think you give Lex Luthor enough credit of just, yes, it started off as a real estate, scheme here, but it's a beginning of, it's like an origin, not just always the origins of Superman, but it's also the origins of who Lex Luthor is and what he becomes. Just to me, when you're taking two a superhero and a villain, and you're creating both origins of that and that saying that's going to be a future of a hatred, to me, you just got to say Superman is better than Watchmen. To me, yes, Watchmen, Ozymandias, excellent madman, but to me,
a Thanos level madman at that.
All right, hold on. At that last second, you bringing up Thanos, but you didn't really get a chance to do that, but that was good. Something that I thought you guys both had the chance to miss is that you were able to say the fact that technically he's not really a villain, which you could say makes it even better. He's actually a good guy, even if the rate are good, where Lex Luthor, you could have said the fact that but he's an actual bad guy. Ozymandias is a superhero because he's the fastest man on the planet and the smartest. And you could sit there and test, so that is two super people fighting each other, where yours is a regular man versus a superhero. Man, none of these. This job is not easy to try to decide which one is which.
I definitely want to see people's comments. I really want to know what they think too.
I think Ian just simply made more points. He's just getting more points. It's like a boxing match. I think you landed on a few more, but he is just throwing a fury of punches at you. And, all right, we got to give that to Ian and give that to Watchmen.
If you can't make good points, make a lot.
Just keep firing them out there.
All right, so we have made it to the semifinals now. This is where they were introducing the top 2 seeded into this. So in these semifinals, the 2 movies that have made it all the way through is The Dark Knight and Aquaman. So let's go ahead and go into our semifinals, where we have Dark Knight and we have Wonder Woman. You've already fought for Batman twice. So go ahead and have Ian fighting for The Dark Knight, and we'll have John fighting for Wonder Woman. And let's go ahead and start with Wonder Woman.
Okay, Wonder Woman. It's just, to me, why it's better is, like, you see an origin story of Wonder Woman. You see her and her training. You see her, connecting with her inner power, her inner Amazonian woman power that she has to finally step up and say, it's time for me to save the world. It's time for me.
Ian.
All right. For one, Batman as a hero in this movie absolutely trumps Wonder Woman in that origin story has already been established, and we're getting a Batman to literally the most Batman we've ever gotten in a movie, and I think the most well put together Batman we've ever gotten. And also you have to look at the villain here. Heath Ledger's Joker, probably the most iconic Joker of all time to this point. People still to this day.
That's the one thing. If you look at the bad guys, I believe the Dark Knight, they put too many villains in the movie. You had the crime
in the Dark Knight?
You had the crime lords.
You've got 3 villains.
3.
You got Dr. Poison. You've got the general, and then you've got Ares actually coming out of nowhere to reveal himself as being all time powerful, but somehow he's been magically stuck on Earth.
I mean, he's the mastermind of the whole thing. He used all 3 into one.
You have to, but you got to look at the battle between here. Again, you got Wonder Woman. Yeah, she's the God Killer. She's all powerful.
She's dealing with a world war. Like, not just this is a guy who is starting a world war.
But you got to look at too. He has a purpose. Batman is literally fighting chaos. With no means.
There's chaos and war. But
there's a purpose in Ares' war. Ares is trying to rule the world. Batman, how do you fight chaos? You can't predict his next move because there's no means to his game. There's no ends to his game, I should say. There's literally, it's just the Joker creating chaos just for the sake of proving that he can. And you have Batman literally tripping over himself, dealing with the emotion of what he's able to do with getting close to his family and his friends, actually tricking him into allowing Rachel to die, and then what he's able to do with Two-Face, turning him like, oh my God.
Two-Face, I will say this, that's one thing to me is why I think Wonder Woman is better than The Dark Knight with the villains. Two-Face, you have somebody who's starting off great, and his villain,
was one of the greatest arcs of the movie. It's one of the greatest arcs of the movie, though. The Joker proving what can happen. It goes back to almost like the Killing Joke, where it's you're only one bad day away from being me. That's a powerful message. That is something that you don't get anywhere.
Okay, so with Wonder Woman, you have established villains. You have a villain who's creating a world war, who wants chaos in itself throughout the war, and you have Gail Gadot, Wonder Woman, who leaves her tribe because she knows that it's gonna come into her, and she goes and fights and wins with the average American, with the average group of soldiers to fight Ares, and she wins. To me, I think it's a better storyline of just a world of chaos and how she establishes and wins the war and doesn't want barely any credit for it.
I think when you're looking back at Batman, you look at what the Joker was able to do again. Having to combat chaos and having no means of understanding or predicting what's going to happen in this. Batman doesn't win. Like, we all leave that movie thinking Batman won. Batman didn't win in that movie. He survived as best he could. The world was completely changed by the Joker. Batman, to his best efforts, and even having to go beyond what he believed, being pushed past what he thought was even right, in Batman Begins or even at the beginning of the movie to a point where he almost went over the line, still managing to hold to that, but still not even winning, just surviving to the point where he can make it out.
I did not.
Okay. I probably could have stopped it. Probably.
I did not like fighting
Like
Dark Knight.
2
I will
minutes
say
ago.
that was hard.
2 minutes ago. I mean, I think Ian just got it in that first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
When you tried to bring down the fact that somehow Wonder Woman villains are better than the Dark Knight villains. The Joker, the undeniable best villain of all time.
You basically just dropped your hands and like just.
And Ian's response was so fast to be like, there were 3 of them.
I will say,
they're terrible.
I actually liked the Dark Knight.
All right, so that one again, we probably could have done that.
That would have been a hard.
We're gonna have to go ahead and give that one.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that's Ian's point as much as it's a point for the Dark Knight. So let's go ahead and give that to the Dark Knight to go in there.
I think the Dark Knight was moving on no matter who was fighting.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We're almost done. Find out what the ultimate best DC movie is of all time. We're in our last semifinal round before we get to our official finals that the Dark Knight has already made it into now. We now have Watchmen versus Aquaman. Let's go ahead and give Watchmen back to John.
Okay.
And let's go ahead and give Aquaman to Ian. Ian, Aquaman. We haven't heard about it yet.
All right, Aquaman, I think we got to go back to an earlier argument we made with Wonder Woman in the fact that Aquaman was walking in when the DC Universe was in a very big state of dismay. There were not a lot of expectations, and I think across the board, Aquaman rose above every expectation. Not only was it one of Jason Momoa, who, let's be real here, is not a great actor, it's probably one of his best on-screen performances, but you also had...
John.
Watchmen. You have a movie who doesn't have a lot... to me, Aquaman has the comics behind it. They have DC. They have the Justice League. People, when they watch the movie, not a lot of us knew who the Watchmen really were, unless you were a 1980s comic book nerd. And to bring this new set of superheroes in a turmoil of a war that they're coming into, or into this world they're coming into, in an alternate 1980s with Richard Nixon, to me... I thought it was just more entertaining to me.
All right, again, I'm going to go back to here. Going back to my point before, not only did you have Jason Momoa in one of his greatest performances in his career, one of his greatest on-screen performances, hands down, but you had probably one of the best villains built up in the movie in Black Manta. You have the actual genuine comic book origin based building of why Black Manta despises Aquaman, because Aquaman was responsible for his father's death. Okay.
So Black Manta, to me, was a very... You could have went more into about Black Manta. He just, arrives, and to me...
You're absolutely correct. But...
That's why I didn't like about it. They're just taking over his ship.
You have to look at...
Where did he come from?
Black Manta... They're setting him up for the sequel, which is exactly why they had the post-credit scene. Black Manta is very clearly being set up as a big bad in the entirety of the DC universe, which it looks like he's actually being looked at as a potential role in a Suicide Squad sequel, which I hope they don't do. However, you also have another villain in Ocean Master who, honestly, at the end of that movie, I'm looking at that thinking, this is the Loki of the DC universe. He's not evil per se, but he loves his people. He wants to rule his people, and he will do whether he has to do something evil to get to there or he has to do something good to get there. You have a character. You have a you can almost call an anti-hero or somebody who's like a tweener in Ocean Master that you're now able to set up in continuing movies, and not only could he potentially be another villain in a Aquaman movie, but he could also potentially be a Justice League villain.
So, I want to go into about, why it's better. Is, to me, I look at, two sides. Like you said, Jason Momoa, this is probably his best movie, but he was lacking even, and I'm looking at the love romantic side of this because, Watchmen had, the love, with the owl and stuff like that. But, to me, I didn't see a connection with Aquaman and his love interest compared to the owl and his love interest, and how, Dr. Manhattan, how much he loved her as well. To me, the strings were tied better in the point of setting up the movie of the cast. To me, I felt like I'm not saying Aquaman was rushed, but I believe Black Manta was rushed. I personally did not like how.
But,
they
you
brought
could
Black
say he was
Manta in
rushed,
there.
but when you see the way that they're leading into him as being a long-term villain, and again, when you look at one of the biggest critiques of the Marvel Universe, it's that they don't do villains well. They don't set up these villains as long-term threats. Black Manta, when you saw him take that fall, that's not something any human should be able to survive. The fact that he survived that and he's still... I'm coming for you, Aquaman. This is a villain that's not to be effed with.
And to me, the reason why I like Watchmen over, Aquaman is the scene where Dr. Manhattan is sitting in the room and he's giving that interview and he's seeing all these people that he's hurt. And I'm one of those that I love to go in and watch superhero movies. My heart went out to Dr. Manhattan. This is a man who wants to do good. Don't get me wrong.
That, but you could make a similar argument for Orm at the end of the movie when he finally sees his mother, who he thought was dead. Because you have to look at that. The king before, like Atlanta's Atlantean husband, King whatever his name was, he kind of manipulated Orm into being this evil guy. And when he sees his mother again, it's almost like he has this moment of realization where it's like, oh my God, what
Final
did
thoughts?
I almost do?
So, my final thoughts is, Watchmen has, to me, the villain side of it, as he was a superhero, then he became a villain, and you have just the great supporting cast of the love interest, and you have the great supporting cast of just the realization, that reality of that, like, you actually feel like you could be Dr. Manhattan and actually feel his pain, and you can actually see Rorschach and how he's gruesome and how he's just trying to find the truth, how we all try to find the truth. I didn't feel that with Aquaman.
Ian?
Aquaman was very clearly trying to find the truth of what his origins were. He knew nothing about himself. He's trying to gain some sort of connection to the mother that he lost. Now, going back, when we're looking at the points of why Aquaman was such a great movie, better than Watchmen, the CGI, which a lot of people were very skeptical about how they were going to do the underwater CGI, especially after the way they did in Justice League, the improvements they made in that CGI were phenomenal.
This is almost for all the marbles here. John, you had me almost the entire time. That's probably the best argument for Watchmen so far. But then you just lost me at the end on that one.
So I started off good and then just dropped.
Yeah. That was a good point with just saying in terms of it being modern with the CGI being amazing on there, and you made a good point in terms of like it was just not believable, the love connection between Arthur Murray and the redhead.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna go ahead and have to give that to Aquaman.
That's a good movie.
So we find ourselves in the finals with the two also top grossing movies. So they not only got the bye, but they made it into the finals. Let's go ahead and as of right now, so far, John, you have won one so far with the original Watchmen on there. So let's go ahead and...
I think he beat me on two.
Was it two of them?
I think I...
All right, you'll look back on it. All right, so we'll go ahead and kind of turn time a little bit. All right, here we go. We have the finals. That is Batman: The Dark Knight versus Aquaman for the best DC movie made so far based on arguments alone. Let's go ahead and give Dark Knight to John, and we'll give Aquaman to Ian again. So, John.
Okay. You look at a very dark time with how Batman is. You have a sociopath villain as the Joker. You have people who are actually cringing, and even myself, just seeing how mad this person is. And you have a Batman who's, number one, hated by the city, but also, to me, the special effects were great. Christopher Nolan, just how he put that of just how the villains always try to rise up and how the government's corrupted and how, there's a glimmer of hope.
Aquaman.
All right, when you're talking about an already established superhero versus a more origin-based movie, you have to look at the character development. Now, the character development in Aquaman, I would say from as far as a DC movie is concerned, by far better than any other movie. The way that they opened up with the relationship between Tom Curry and Atlanta, how Aquaman came to be about, what the costs were for them having done what they did, having a kid who was really lived of both worlds, and then the emotion that went into when he found out his mother was murdered because he was born, the emotion that went into that, the quest in itself, you're almost gotten like a little Indiana Jones Uncharted action going on in there. The journey that him and Mir had to go across.
Right.
Okay, so to me, let's look at way back with Bruce Wayne, how he doesn't have his parents, and he's coming into, a very gloomy, dark mansion in Wayne Mansion, and he's also has to run a business.
Okay. Well, there's no mansion. He's living in a high-rise apartment.
Is he? Yeah. Well,
very,
he has the
very
mansion.
Cushy high-rise apartment. So he's not
that.
living in some sort of a rundown old lighthouse like Aquaman, who had to grow up without ever knowing his mother, and then coming to learn in his teenage years that his mother was murdered simply because he was born.
I mean, Batman had his parents murdered in front of him, and then the kid had to try to run a business with Alfred. I mean, later on he runs the business, but
he ran the business terribly, though. Running a business.
I mean, it shows in the movie. I mean, he plays that billionaire playboy. How I enjoyed seeing him take out models, and he gets whatever he wants, but he doesn't want it. He has this love interest
but he in no way
with
lived
Rachel.
any kind of a double life. Not when you really. His double life was he never really got into it. Like, he would do these things, like these little one-offs, where he would just have this big extravagant event going on to where he would look like he was kind of inserted into this, where Aquaman truly is living in two worlds. Like, he's having to live two completely separate lives.
And you guys are arguing a little bit more about as far as which superhero is better. Remember, what movie is better?
Supporting cast, Alfred Pennyworth. Okay, to me, the guy that casted for that movie, and even Rachel, the one scene in this movie that it quotes me every time when I watch the news, he says, because Bruce Wayne asks Alfred, he's like, why do people do this? And Alfred goes, Bruce, some people just want to watch the world burn. And to me, I was like, wow. Like, the depth of him saying that, the supporting cast of him saying that, and he has a Joker. He's fighting a sociopath. He's not fighting Manta. He's not fighting, like, his half-brother. Like, this, to me, was like a sibling battle. Like, he literally was going there being so cocky and arrogant against his brother.
The whole sibling battle is more apparent in the siblings are never going to kill each other. Batman is never going to kill the Joker, meaning there's no stakes for Batman. The Joker doesn't want to kill him. He even says that in the movie. He's like, I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you?
Well, he knows, like, because the Joker knows he can never, which makes this movie so much great. And the villain,
and Batman will obviously never kill Joker as well. Now you've got Aquaman, I think if you put him in the right situation, he will kill his bag. Which I think the Black Manta scene is a perfect example of that, because nobody should have survived that fall. That fall was freaking brutal. But there are stakes in this that Black Manta wants. He wants him dead. Like, if Batman, fails, like he's gonna get another shot. I'm gonna get another shot at taking him down.
Most of the stuff he uses, I mean, even with Alfred, he's coming home with broken ribs. He's coming home.
But he's alive.
Barely.
And he will always continue to be alive.
Barely, because he's
the Joker
Batman.
Won't kill him, and the Joker won't allow any of his henchmen to kill him.
Because he's Batman. I mean, they keep trying to kill him. I wouldn't say they never want to kill him. I don't think the Joker per se wants to kill him. But the Maroni family wants to kill him, who is tied into mainly.
But the Joker dismantled all of those crime families. By the end of it, those crime families are done. They don't exist anymore.
Well, you have Harvey.
The Joker honestly did a better job cleaning up the city than Batman did.
All right, okay, let's cut it. All right, so I'm gonna ask questions now.
Okay.
Ian, why is the villains of Aquaman better than Dark Knight?
There's a clear-cut motive for why each villain is trying to do what they want to do. Black Manta is avenging his father. Orn is sick. He's wanting to take the world back that they lost from back in there. He's sick of humans polluting their oceans with their garbage and their pollutions, the oils and everything, and that whole scene
John,
where he
why
pushes
is the
everything
villains
out.
of Dark Knight better?
You have the Joker, who's a sociopath, he's so unpredictable. He he's just crazy, and shows that in the movie. And then you have Harvey Dent, Two-Face, who wants payback against the Batman. You could see the anger in his face, that half bloodied up face, that was just disgruntled, of wanting to kill Batman, where he will do anything it costs to kill Batman. I saw more of a villain.
Why is the story of Aquaman better than Dark Knight?
To be honest, there's no real story in The Dark Knight. It's just Batman trying to stop the Joker from doing whatever crazy freaking thing he's about to do next. Where in Aquaman, there's a clear journey that Aquaman's having to take to getting back to where learning more about his origins, discovering the tridents, what inevitably ends up becoming saving his mother, defeating his brother, who he finds out the family that led to his mother being murdered.
Why is the story of The Dark Knight better?
I believe it's a continuation of the origin story, to where you see Batman trying to fight between being Bruce Wayne and the Batman, but also if he's Batman, he's that horrible vigilante. To me, you have a movie that is just so dark, is so unpredictable. To me, I felt Aquaman was just too predictable compared to The Dark Knight. You did not know what was going to come up next in The Dark Knight. To me, it was anarchy in itself, and I believe I loved it. The people loved it. It shows.
Why is the directing of Aquaman better than Dark Knight?
Well, for one thing, in The Dark Knight, you've got I say what you want about it, but those heavy bass drops where the score in itself almost takes you out of the movie, where the score in the way that it was all, the way that everything was put together, the direction that the movie had, the character developments, the CGI in itself, just the way the world was built in Aquaman was built so much more strongly than in
John, why is the directing of Dark Knight better than Aquaman?
I think The Dark Knight showed how a real Gotham City, how dark it really was, like how we see in the comics. I think they did a really good job taking it from the comics to the main screen. They did a great job as showing this splitness of Bruce Wayne and the anarchy of the Joker and the hatred of Harvey Two-Face Dent, and also Batman trying to fight for his love and try to fight for his girl, and where he had to make that sacrifice. I believe, it just made a great directing movie, how you could see just the struggle he had. You saw the struggle of Batman having to make a decision between either saving Gotham City or saving his girl, and he had to make that decision. I think the director did a great job of contrasting both those.
All right, closing argument, Ian?
So I'm going to go back to direction again, and also you have to look at the way that the directors actually put everything together. Gotham City, if you look at that in the screen of Christopher Nolan, every city in Christopher Nolan movie is Gotham City. It's the same city. He shoots every city the exact same way. Whereas James Wan, coming from being strictly a horror movie director to coming in and doing what he was able to do to Aquaman, that shows incredible range in direction. Also with the acting, again, the acting was incredible. Even where certain scenes where you felt like the lighting, the writing might have been a little lacking, the actors did an incredible job with what they were given. Whereas in The Dark Knight, you could definitely see where there were some scenes that were a little forced.
Just why? Just if you look at it, what was the question again? Closing argument. Okay, so you see this dark city. You see how, like I said, you see Batman trying to bring justice, his own justice, but justice. Overall, it's a movie to where it's almost like a real life. You could see it in the city of the United States around here. You could really see that, and you can actually. Some people would want to be
ding,
like,
ding.
"Oh, be Batman."
We could have probably gone on that for a long time.
Yeah.
So I tried to give you guys as much opportunity to try to take it. I think Ian definitely had
That was an uphill battle.
That was definitely an uphill battle, but he ran. It's hard because we're trying to do it just on the debating and the arguing. Ian does have more experience in the debate realm than John does. And it just goes to show, this is not easy to just on the whim.
No.
We're talking about 10 separate movies that you got to be able to have in your head at any given second, and that is not an easy thing to pull off. I mean, John, you had definitely every opportunity in the book, because obviously on any real list, Dark Knight would probably come ahead.
I feel like I had brought a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, Aquaman being newer, and we obviously have seen it fresher, might have given Ian a little bit of an advantage on that one to be able to pull it off. But this is not saying that one movie is better than the other, but because this is the top 10 bracket challenge, I do have to say that I think Ian did make a better argument for Aquaman today than Dark Knight. I think everyone learned a really good lesson to that. Congratulations to Ian for definitely winning the overall on that one. Thank you, John, so much for being here.
No problem.
This is definitely hard. This is a brutal thing, and I'm sure everyone at home thinks that they can do a better job of this,
No,
but
it's not.
it is not an easy thing to do. Well, we will see you next week for our next top 10 bracket challenge. John, Ian, my name is Steve. Enjoy your weekend.